right, you're watching another exciting webcast from 6 5 Media. We have this series, Lenovo AI for All, in which we're exploring the complex issues associated with building AI systems and how they're used in the enterprise. We have joining us today Doug and Peter, respectively, from Lenovo and NVIDIA to dive deep into this important topic. I want to have a conversation around this topic of training models. There's a lot of challenges, fun and well, not so fun, specifically around power, efficiency, etc. Let's talk about how Lenovo and NVIDIA is helping customers overcome some of these challenges. So let's start with Doug. Let's talk about what's happening at Lenovo to help customers overcome some of the challenges around power.
So Keith, that's a great question. So we're really focused on what the end users want to do, our IT decision makers, what they want to create for their customers. And we're really focused on making sure they have the right size solution to fit their install base, to fit their customers, right? So if I'm an IT manager in a hotel chain, I want to make sure I'm creating a chatbot or a model that fits my business to solve a particular problem. So I need to make sure that I have a modular infrastructure that supports the size, the number of users I need, the data, how much data do I want to input into the model, and then also a machine that can make decisions or prescribe decisions really quickly to the end users who are using the system. So it's really about a modular design that scales up and down with the different use cases for the customers. And my goal within Lenovo really is to bring those solutions with NVIDIA to our customers so they can see what others have done, so they can learn from others and make it a more likable outcome or higher probability outcome that they will deliver a solution with quick, fast ROI, and they can get back to the next AI project they have.
Peter, how's NVIDIA partnering with Lenovo to help that come to fruition?
So NVIDIA is very well aligned and partnered with Lenovo on AI solutions. We are providing infrastructure, networking, GPUs, CPUs in some cases, and a full platform of software for developers and enterprises to go productize their AI solutions sitting on top of. Relative to right sizing, I like the term that you're using, Doug, around modularization or right sizing for the enterprise. Our NVIDIA AI Enterprise software suite includes a plethora of tools for the developer if they want to start from scratch and want to develop with just SDKs and build their applications from scratch, all the way up into containerized, optimized solutions for GPUs that have been accelerated out of the box. And then we have this new concept called NIM, which is a microservice that we launched at our GTC conference earlier this spring, which is a fully vetted microservice which includes large language models, a bunch of different domain-specific applications as well. So the developers don't have to put the bits and bytes, if you will, and manage the bits and bytes inside of that microservice. So they can just point their application at the microservice and just get it to run.
So I'm hearing a combination of software, services, hardware coming together to offer this platform. But many of the challenges that we see in the industry are not necessarily related to getting the hardware and services right. That's a challenge in itself. Talk to me about data and data governance, because I think this is the number one challenges customers are running into is they're trying to get their culture or capture that culture and get it into their models and in an efficient but compliant manner.
Yeah, so Keith, as we roll out these solutions, and we call our solutions either they're a solution brief with an ISV, or they're a reference architecture, or a Lenovo validated designs, we incorporate everything from the software to the services to the hardware. But in every piece of hardware we build, there is security, right? So we're securing the hardware. And then as we build on the software, we're relying on our software to not interject any malicious malware or any malicious content into any of the models we're building. And then we take those industry standards and then we apply them to the customer's data. And the customer's data is really the challenge of the whole thing. Which data do I want to incorporate in the model? Which data do I want to keep on premise so that nobody else can see it? And that's really where data modeling and data setup is incredibly important. And that's where this private AI that we're developing, solution blueprints for and reference architectures for really kick off with the combination of, NVIDIA software, NVIDIA hardware, and then Lenovo services, software, and hardware to create a model that runs these applications and run this data through a very efficient, very secure model.
So we've established there's a platform. There's governance around that platform to get the data into your platform. Let's talk into some detail about that, getting the data into the platform. How are customers approaching this model challenge? Are they looking at large models? Are they looking at smaller models? What's some of the learnings that you're seeing across customers?
Yeah, to me, you have, depending on the customer type, you see them starting with smaller models to start. They want to build either an agent that can ingest a lot of companies' data and produce outcomes. So, for example, a company might want to ingest a lot of their legal documents or a lot of their technical documents to either help their call center or help their legal department be better and more efficient in answering customers' questions or answering legal questions for their businesses. And then you have call centers who are developing, ingest models so they can answer customers' questions more fluently, more efficiently, and more accurately so they can produce better results for their end users. And then you have a large language model or larger customers really imploring large language models to solve business critical issues. So it's a combination of two. If you're dealing with end users, you're dealing with internal users, you tend to start with smaller models. If you're dealing with complex issues like process and other things, you tend to start with a large language model.
And are we seeing any domain specific advantages with smaller models over larger models, or is this more of again based on the size?
I would say we're seeing a lot more success with small language models because you can be domain specific for a retail environment. You can be domain specific for a call center environment. You can be domain specific into a service company. So if a company's out there doing services on, washing machines or appliances at home, it's much easier to create a small language model so they can interact with their customers as they go to debug the problem before they get there. So it's much easier to deal with that kind of domain in a small language model than it is to take one of these large language models and try to do it, for a wide variety of industries with a lot of different inputs and a large data set.
So, Peter, we're seeing even the smaller models grow in size, the larger models. There's these complex business processes that Doug mentioned earlier, and we want to start putting this on device. How is NVIDIA helping to get this capability closer to that edge?
There's a couple of things to address there. So the open source models of AI, it's an open source wild west, if you will. So I wanted to go back briefly to touch on your security question as well. Because it's open source, there's a lot of opportunities to ingest some unnecessary things inside of the software stacks. And so one of the things we're working with Lenovo on in particular from a security perspective is, as part of our AI enterprise software suite, we have what's called a production branch, which has full-fledged CVE security scanning to make sure that that open source software is clean on daily, hourly, monthly basis to ensure that those customers that are using those applications, using those large language models, that AI software suite is secure and safe from unknown entities coming in the open source. And that takes a lot of effort and lots of time to go run through that. And if you're a system admin and you're focusing on developing applications, you don't have to be worrying about all the different elements and the thousands of different sources that open source can kind of feed into there. So we're trying to take care of that for you. Because it's all open source and because it's, again, referring back to the Wild Wild West, as it were, there's lots of choices. And every month, literally every month, there's a new model that comes out as well. And one of the things that NVIDIA is working on, both on the large scale, so the largest scale, large language models, and saying large language models as opposed to small large language models is kind of They're all large to begin with.
They're all big. 7
They're
billion,
all
7 billion and above is pretty big.
lots and lots of parameters and complex items. So going back to the NIM statement and doing optimizations both from a hardware perspective, from a precision perspective, and ensuring that those models run and optimized and have the best accuracy, which is super important for enterprises because you don't want something spitting out the wrong answer. We're supporting those smaller models as they come out, putting a NIM wrapper around it so that the customers have one, the assurances from a security perspective, and secondarily, that it's accurate, it's easy to deploy and easy to manage. Again, all the way from those small models all the way up into the 400 billion, working all the way up into the 1.1 trillion size models as well. And so working with Lenovo for those on-prem models, how do you go deploy those? Using a standard Kubernetes stack to ensure that they're easy to deploy, manage, scale up, scale down as need be. And again, all the way up to larger scales as well.
So let's go into some level of detail around scale. I hinted at the beginning that retraining and training models is probably the best way to get the model to operate in a way that's consistent with your organization. There's the RAG process and there's retraining. This isn't an either or. This is a both scenario. But let's dig into the training challenge. We're looking in the news where we're seeing these massive clusters being built to train the largest models. Where are customers settling, and how is Lenovo and NVIDIA helping to downsize or right size, is a better term that you used earlier, Doug, these infrastructures to do training?
Well, one of the best ways to downsize your infrastructure or to get the right infrastructure to do the job is to understand how big the data is and how much data you need to process. A lot of customers start with a wide scope and a lot of parameters. And the truth is, they don't need to start that wide. They can start with their domain expertise, they can start with their own data, and build a smaller model which would indicate how things are going to go, and then add more data to it, add more parameters to it. A lot of customers start at the high end, high parameters, and work their way down, which is a very inefficient way to do it. If you start with a smaller model, smaller data, and you prove what you're doing first, and then you scale up. So starting that way is a different approach, and it's more effective. Secondly, we have energy efficiency built into all of our designs. We have industry leading water cooling called Neptune, which allow us to do it a lot more efficiently from a heating and cooling and energy efficiency standpoint in the data center. And then also we have high performance storage architectures, which allow you to do the data management in a smaller footprint than what you have in general on a database or an SAP background where you have lots of copies, lots of duplication of data. You can slim that down as you move to a better data management structure. So starting smaller, proving it works, and then expanding from there. You start with a smaller model, and then having the right infrastructure that can scale, that's efficient to begin with, and then have the secure data management process in place will allow you to be more efficient in your footprint.
Peter, talk to me about the NVIDIA approach to this, because I'm picturing in my mind different size Lenovo solutions that range from the edge all the way to the data center, and this validated design that Lenovo offers for their AI platforms. How's NVIDIA supporting these different form factors specifically around this need to go from maybe training a smaller model all the way up to the larger?
It's a very good question and something we have customers ask us routinely about. Lenovo has a wonderful full-fledged portfolio that goes all the way from the edge. So the SE350, SE450 class platforms, which are again classic edge, very low power. We have smaller GPUs that fit into those systems that allow customers to go do inferencing near the data. So if you're thinking about retail, thinking about classic IVA type applications where you have a lot of video streams coming in, is that a suitcase? Is that, classic, is that a cat or is that a dog type thing? But going even further into, IVA security aspect of, okay, somebody left a suitcase behind in an airport. I need to identify that there's nobody around that suitcase and identifying security to go off and go resolve that. So those smaller systems, again, it's smaller applications, but a large number of uses and a large number of instances running at the edge, multiple different locations and everything else feeding cameras. So smaller GPUs to go accommodate that. And then as you get closer into what we used to call near edge, far edge, as you get closer into the data center side of the world, the GPU support gets larger. The GPU communication between the GPUs gets larger because as you're getting these models that are getting larger and larger and larger, as we're talking about billions of parameters, hundreds of billions of parameters, and then trillions of parameters, they take a lot of inter-GPU communication, a lot of intra-node communication. And so working with Lenovo on their the SR675 V3 is a wonderful example of a platform that Lenovo brought to market earlier in the space, which allows up to 8 GPUs interconnected through PCIe, but that is from a frame buffer perspective is a fairly large instance. And then you connect it with NVIDIA networking at scale to these larger model training. So you connect both the GPUs, interconnecting the GPUs, and then the node-to-node communication through NVIDIA networking tied together with software stacks. So you can train these larger models at scale as well. So again, anywhere from the larger scale HGX-based platforms all the way down into the smaller, edge-based platforms. Lenovo has solutions for those in a power-efficient manner as well.
Yeah, I think this is the complexity of solving this challenge. Most customers don't know where to start on the journey. There's plenty of options on the market, especially between providers and partners such as Lenovo and NVIDIA. So even with all the content we've created over the past few days, helping to, dispel some of the FUD, inform, talk to me about the practical first step, Doug. Where should customers start their journey?
Well, a customer journey really starts with their priorities. What are they trying to do and what are they trying to solve? So generally we would start a customer in an advisory workshop. We'll probably look at 5 or 6 things they want to go do. And we'll say, here's the 2 that will generate the best, fastest ROI and fastest implementation. Here are 2 that are very well-known use cases. We know how to do them. We'll tee them up, as projects to go do. And here's 2 that need to be researched because they are net new thoughts, net new capabilities, which will take a little longer to develop. So one of the best things that Lenovo can do with NVIDIA's help is to help give the best practices to the IT staff, to the data scientists, and say, here's what other people are doing, and advise them, here's the fastest way to implement these, and show the company that we're generating real returns before we move to the next set of projects. A lot of times, in the past couple of years, companies have kicked off projects and they've gone to pilot and they didn't succeed in their pilot because they didn't achieve the results. So using our advisory services, using some of our professional skills to tell them what other people have done and where it's worked has really helped us get from the starting gate to at least phase 1, phase 2 of their implementation of these solutions. And then they can really look at how do I solve some of the larger problems with some of the large language models.
And again, I don't want to leave this conversation without talking about data. Can you give us maybe 3 top recommendations around data infrastructure?
Yeah, the key about data infrastructure is to identify what data is going to be associated with the model and making sure it's tagged correctly and it's marked correctly so that it can be pulled into the model. And secondly, you want to make sure your data is on a secure platform and is being integrated into a secure piece of software, because as you're building, whether it's a reference, a RAG model or just an inferencing model, you want to make sure that the data is clean and is also secure so that your results are accurate and tell the truth versus having somebody put something malicious in there or having a false positive, right? So we want to make sure that the data is clean, it's secure, and it's simple to manage. And then secondly, what you want to really do with your data is make sure that you're on a platform that can not only support the current use case, but is available for the next use case. So as we're cleaning up data, as we're doing the thing with the data management that's correct for one model, you want to enable your data to be used for the next solution as well. So we see this a lot in manufacturing. The same data will be used either for the SAP solution or for the manufacturing floor solution. So we'll clean up the data so that you're ready to use it for the first model, but also the second implementation as well.
How do you see enterprises using AI in coming years?
I think the easiest way is agents. Customers can use agents internally. So you can have a chatbot for your human resources. You can have a chatbot for your services, your IT services. So using agents is going to be the fastest way, and it's a harmless model. If your IT bot gives you the wrong answer, there's no harm, no foul, because you're basically going to call up the IT staff anyway and get the right answer. The same thing with a lot of self-service portals for your call centers, et cetera. There's no harm, no foul if it doesn't give the right answer because they'll follow up with the call. The other thing we're going to see is a lot of applications, containerized applications, will become hardened. So we'll be able to roll out more of these off-the-shelf prepackaged solutions that didn't exist 18, 12 months ago. They will start to exist. And so we'll be able to take containers and NIMs off the shelf and being able to implement those very, very quickly for customers. So I think the chatbots and then these predefined ISVs or predefined NIMs will allow us to implement more use cases in a faster way, which we haven't had the capability to do before in the last 12 months.
And I fully agree. Agentic AI is the way that everybody's going to go look at this, especially in the enterprise. And if you read some of the news that's out there of AI is going to go steal my job, AI is going to go remove my ability to go do my job. The intent here and the focus is augmenting and helping you do your job faster and better, and removing those mundane tasks that you have to go, well, where did I put that PDF? Where is that file? Where is that piece of data I'm going looking for? Instead, you just ask for it, and it will automatically go off and go find it. The other point I want to say for the year of coming into 2025, a lot of things in the news around ChatGPT and these large-scale training models. Majority of things that you've seen in the news today for AI adoption has been on the large-scale initial implementation and the creation of those models. The actual execution and adoption through enterprise is coming soon. Lenovo is uniquely positioned to go take advantage of both that training infrastructure, from large-scale data centers all the way out to the edge. Huge, wonderful workstation business as well. So things from a business edge to data center, desktop to data center. Lenovo is well positioned to go drive that. And you're going to see a large adoption of AI inside of the enterprise, leading in with the agentic side of the world, taking advantage of these multiple years of AI training that's been going on in the industry today.
Doug, that's a full-throated endorsement from Peter. How do people reach out? What's the next steps? How do people reach out?
Well, the easiest way to reach out to us really is, contact us through your sales rep, contact us through your business partner. Lenovo is not Lenovo without our business partners. So all of our business partners are well tuned and well thought of from an AI perspective. And then our sales reps are the second best way to get a hold of us. And then we have a lot of collateral online at Lenovo.com. We have workbooks, we have best recipes, we have thought leadership pieces with NVIDIA. So there's a ton of different ways to get the information to you.
Doug, Peter, thanks for joining me. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm excited about the future of AI, agentic AI specifically. Please visit the link below for more information about Lenovo's hybrid AI strategy.